Greetings to one and all. We appreciate your attendance today. So let's kickstart our session with this great quotation. Being able to be your true self is one of the strongest components of good mental health. A very good evening to all the guests and dignitaries. In this capacity as your host for the webinar on factors affecting mental health in working women, I, Usha, the host, would like to take this opportunity to extend a hearty greetings to each and every one of you. Welcome all. It's a huge honor for us to have someone of this caliber here whose involvement on the topic factors affecting mental health and working women adds so much value to it. A few lines regarding the topic of the event. So today's webinar will provide valuable insights into factors affecting mental health in working women, highlighting the unique challenges they face in balancing their professional and personal lives. Our expert speaker will explore the key factors that influence the mental well-being with the goal of raising awareness and offering practical strategies for support. Together, let's examine the distinct mental health challenges encountered by the working women. Before I proceed further, let me take a brief moment for the introduction of my organization. SEMS Welfare Foundation is a registered non-profit organization committed to social impact across sectors, focusing on education, skill development, and entrepreneurship. Through our DigiSaksham initiative, we offer training programs in IT, finance, retail, and entrepreneurship, impacting over 6,000 individuals. We are currently upskilling inmates in Haryana jail and collaborating with universities and colleges, having successfully placed over 1,500 candidates in jobs through partnership with banks. Another initiative, Fem Leads, empowers women through workshops and success stories of female entrepreneurs. We provide programs on digital literacy, marketing, and career development, reaching over 1,000 women leaderships in various industries. Now, let me take this wonderful occasion to publicly present and welcome our speaker, Dr. Manisha Pandey, ma'am, the key speaker for today's webinar. A few lines about our speaker. Dr. Manisha Pandey is the Chief Medical Officer, NTPC Meja, Prayagraj. She's a senior consultant gynecologist with over 30 years of experience working for women's health. She has done her MBBS and MS from the GSVM Medical College, Kanpur, and is a fellow of the Indian College of Maternal and Child Health. She is specially interested in lifestyle modifications for health promotion, healthy pregnancy, adolescent health, and preventions of cancers related to women. She has also authored an Amazon best-selling book, Nine Lives and Many More, Being Breast Aware, which aims to raise breast cancer awareness among the general public. As a strong supporter of mental health, a vital aspect of the holistic well-being, she acquired a PG diploma in mental health and is also a certified tobacco cessation specialist. She's honored to have been selected as a change leader in the She Creates Change Fellowship Program organized by the change.org. With this note, I, Usha, on behalf of the SEMS Welfare Foundation, would like to give my heartiest welcome to Dr. Manisha Pandey, ma'am, with a huge round of applause for joining us today. Your presence have added to the significance for this event, and we are genuinely honored to have you here, ma'am. So prior to the commencement of this event today, there are few ground rules that all the participants should follow. So you're welcome to ask the queries or questions in the chat box. In the end, we'll respond to all the queries. It is asked that each participant please keep their microphone muted. The participant who engages more in the section will receive a letter of appreciation from us. Lastly, a feedback form will be presented in the chat box. Once again, a warm welcome to all the participants and our distinguished guest of honor, Dr. Manisha Pandey, ma'am. We are looking forward to have an informative and enjoyable event ahead. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Usha. That was great. And about SEMS, it's quite impressive. And I like the DigiSaksham part. I hope to collaborate more with you because, as you mentioned, empowerment of women, that is my mission, I would say. And somehow, like when we are talking about the mental health of working women, so I would say I'm a woman, I'm a doctor, I'm a mental health expert, and I am a corporate employee as well. So I know the things which are happening, and I also, apart from discussing things, I hope to learn from you, get the inputs, what is happening. And that is more like, and this is what I believe. Recently, I was in the IMA led Women Leadership Program. And this is what we spoke about. The women have to change their own mindset. And then we have to be together for each other, mentor others, and take guidance from others. So with that stage, I would like to proceed further. And I would have loved to know the participants. Can I have a look at the faces?
Yeah, can you please switch on the cameras, please?
And I hope to have it as an interactive session because it's not a lecture, it is more like a session. We tend to find out solutions for whatever is plaguing us in the workplaces. So, can I have a glimpse of your faces, your beautiful places, faces?
As
Okay, okay.
yeah.
So before starting further, I do I go about in English or I presume everybody will understand English. So we proceed with English.
Yes, ma'am, should work.
Is that
Yes.
okay?
Yeah.
And as I said just now, it has to be an interactive session. That is the only way forward. So you are absolutely free to interrupt me at any time. You can ask me anything, we can discuss anything, but please don't interact amongst each other because that will be a little counterproductive. So I have a small presentation with me. I would like to start with that. Right? So
Sure,
the
ma'am.
factors, the topic for the day is factors affecting mental health in working women. That is the thing. And already it's not moving. My slide is not moving. So I go back a little about myself.
Yeah.
Can you see the slide moving now?
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am. Yeah, yeah. It's yeah.
Okay, okay. So I'll proceed, assuming everything is moving. So a little brief about myself. I'm a gynecologist. I'm the chief medical officer with NTPC. So a corporate, an administrator, a gynecologist, that means working with the women, and then a mental health expert. And as Usha said, wrote a book on 9 lives and many more. All this is about women empowerment. So, but I don't go around, even being a change maker. I would not call myself an activist. I tend to do my work. My mission is, my thing is, if I can motivate women to take care of themselves, that is equivalent to empowerment as per me. So today, the topic we are going to take is a burning issue, which is mental health. So we found WHO reports 1 in 8 person with a mental health condition, and nearly 15% of the Indian population has some form of the mental health issue, and we know how good we are at reporting. So you can understand the magnanimity of the problem. After the COVID is not totally gone, every second day you keep hearing about another strain, and then we are faced with another pandemic, and this is mental health because इसका merge और दवा दोनों हमारे ही हाथ में है. So I would say this is another. You can't see anything. You can't test. Unlike all the other diseases, here you can't do a testing. Something gone amiss with my slides.
Yeah, it has gone to the cases on the rise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next one. So, what is mental health? WHO says it is a state of well-being. This, please do pay attention to the definition. A state of well-being in which the individual realizes his or her own abilities, can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution to his or her community. So, as you can see, this is an all comprehensive definition और इसमें तो हम सभी आ जाते हैं. So you don't have to worry about whether I will, because I believe that is the biggest thing which is holding us back from taking treatment. कि मेरा mental disorder है. It's not disorder. We are talking about health. A person can be physically fit but can have issues. And when you look at this definition, हम सब उसी नाव में सवार हैं. कुछ थोड़े से ज्यादा, कुछ थोड़े से कम. So please don't be shy about it. Come forward, and this is what we are going to do. When I switch on the camera, this stops moving. I don't know why. So then I'm coming to a specific area, mental health in the workplace. WHO has reported that 15% of the working adults are estimated to have a mental disorder in 2019, and that is a pre-COVID data. And there, India accounts for 15% of the global mental health burden. And women are twice as likely as men to experience anxiety and depression. So most of us have anxiety and depression. So I think first and foremost thing that we can talk about today is that mental health issue होना is not a stigma. It is something we need to talk about. It's like stomach ache. It's like having a fever. It's like having a running nose. It is that common. And then we have to talk about it to get treated. Mental health issues among working women are rising at an alarming rate. So we went to a specific area, that is the workplace, and of these we are talking about the working women. And a study conducted by Empower, an initiative by the Aditya Birla Education Trust, revealed that nearly 48% of the corporate employees are struggling with mental health issues. And I would say that is an understatement, with women being more prone to high mental health risk at 56% versus that of men at 41%. And this data is based on the people who do approach, who are diagnosed. And we are just not talking about the rest of the iceberg. We are not talking about the rest of the iceberg. It is only the tip of the iceberg. And with this, people are getting attuned to this. We are getting alerted. There was a whole session at the International Commission of Occupational Health recently at Marrakesh in Morocco, where we spoke, and I also presented a paper on need for women-centric mental health policy as an occupational safety and health component. So women are approximately twice as likely as men to experience depression and anxiety. And the contributing factors means dual nature of jobs, societal expectations, hormonal factors, challenges faced by women. And so we keep talking about women, why women centric mental health policy. इसके बारे में बात होती है. हम तो जेंडर न्यूट्रल की तरफ जा रहे हैं. And why are we talking about women? Because whatever has been happening, the workplaces have been designed according to men. They are, because earlier women were not working. So जितना policies बना था, they were according to men. They were taken as the standard, and women were like, the other part. So the other part के अपने issues हैं, and they were never taken into account. And now we have increasing participation of women in the workforce, and they have specific gender related issues. And now I'm not talking about the sexual difference. Women and men are biologically different. That is a sexual difference. But the mindset, the makeup, the society shaping up the personality, all this leads to gender difference. she has to नहीं बोलेंगे, both men and women get married, but the baby grows in the woman's womb. She has to breastfeed the baby. She has to have periods for a good 30 years of a productive life. All this is a fact, and this is bound to affect the mental health. So we have to take that into consideration. So I do not agree with the gender neutral. Gender neutral kariye efficiency wise, but do make space for have a gender sensitive approach towards the mental health policy. We'll be talking about that later on. So stress kya hota hai? Everybody's talking about stress here and there. Who doesn't have stress? The only person without stress is a dead person. And stress is different for everyone. And everyone deals with stress differently. We know about most of you must have read about the Yerkes-Dodson law. Ki thoda stress is important, because if you do not have stress at all, you will not work. So some amount of stress, which is called the good stress, हम लोग जैसे good cholesterol, bad cholesterol की बात करते हैं. Likewise, we have good stress, which motivates you, urges you to perform to your optimum. But when it goes to the extreme, when you cannot handle it, so it is more about how you handle it, how you respond to it, how you react to it. That makes stress good or bad. When you're not able to handle it, you're not able to cope with it, then it leads to issues. So all stresses are not equal. A physical stress for me may not be equal to how you perceive it. It is more about my perception for a situation and how I react to it. How I react or respond में क्या अंतर होता है? I wish we had people talking to me. So how reaction is different from respond. React means, if I just poke a needle into your hand and you just take your hand away, the fight or flight thing, that is reaction. When you process the information and then you take action, that is response. So reaction and response to the external influences, that constitutes our reaction to it, and that is what stress is about. So for me, whatever is stress for me may not be stress for you, and vice versa. So how does stress manifest? Physical, you may have headache, backache. I can tell you that most, because I've been working with women for 35 years now, so most of the time, 60 to 70% of the times, they come with backache, headache, hand, the lower back, the stomach ache, the abdominal pain, and then you talk about it, and all the tests turn out to be normal, and then you understand this was a somatic manifestation of a psychological condition which we broadly label as psychosomatic. It doesn't mean the woman doesn't have a problem. It just means that her mental stress is so much as to cause muscle spasm or the body to react in such a way that it manifests. So it can be fatigue, it can be sleeplessness, it can be aggressiveness, it can be overreaction. All these things may, and physically it may manifest in different aches, pains, and fatigue. Emotional response, aggressiveness, crying, bursting out, reacting strongly to anything. That is emotional manifestation of stress. Then the cognitive is about brain, the thinking, taking the decisions, then judgment, and all these things, they show up as cognitive manifestations of stress. And behavior, procrastinating thing, getting aggressive, responding violently, having strained relationships. These are behavioral manifestations of stress. So, what we spoke about it, stress is, everyone has stress. The magnitude is different according to the stressors, the external situation, and internally it is about their response to it. It can manifest in either of these ways. So we have seen, okay, all this is happening, but then sexual differences are there, gender differences are there, but over and above that, we have a specific subset, the working women, who face a unique set of challenges which negatively impact their mental health. According to World Development Indicators, women work two-thirds of the world's working hours, produce half of the world's food, but earn only 10% of the world's income and own less than 1% of the world's property. Isn't it ironical? Will it not lead to a sense of unfairness? Will it not lead to frustration? Will it not lead to stress? And so my response to it, and these women are suffering twofold. We studied, we came forward, came out of the home, took on jobs that increased economic independence. It added to the financials of the whole family. It led to the self-esteem of the woman. But also, because the mindset did not change, the mindset of the family, the mindset of the society, and in most of the cases, the mindset of the woman herself, that she goes to the traditional, typical role of a homemaker, of a caregiver in the house. So she ventured into a new area, reached the heights, has to prove herself all the time, which takes its toll on the mental health. But she forgot that she has not left that area. Nobody compensated at the home front. The society still keeps expecting the traditional role from the women. So now she's working two full-time jobs, and one of them is unpaid. Okay, so this is about the working women, and this is bound to create, and this takes a toll on the mental well-being of the women. So broadly speaking, the key factors affecting mental health in a working women. We talk about women, and then we have this specific subset of working women. They may be working in an organized sector, that is a corporate job. Most of the, most of the women are in the healthcare, the
Ma'am, it's
traditional
not
roles.
audible.
Sorry. Hello.
Yes, ma'am, you can continue.
Am I audible now?
Yes, ma'am, you are
Oh,
audible.
great. So So now what we are talking about, this subset of women, they may be working in organized sector, that is a corporate job, and most of the women, they again go into the traditional roles, the teachers, the doctors, the healthcare workers, into fashions, into media, but the hardcore jobs. Yes, now we have women engineers. I work in power sector, so I know I have women engineers who go out into the field. They have their own problems. And then we are talking about the women in the unorganized sector, that is the laborers, the domestic workers, all these constitute the working women. So we have work related stress, gender discrimination and workplace inequality, the family responsibilities, societal expectations, mental health stigma, and biological and life cycle factors. Do I have you all on board? Shall I continue further?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we'll be tackling them one by one. So, coming on first to the work related stress. So, when I was at ICO, and we had so many countries, and we found the women all over had similar problems. It was similar problems for women all over globally. It's not about India alone. Everywhere, problems are similar. The magnitude is different, and in India and the developing countries, LMICs, that is the low and middle income countries, the traditional role takes an upper hand. So these women, they have come out, and that includes me as well, and they have to play the balancing act, navigating work life integration. There are work demands. I have had to prove myself going into STEM, the science technology branches, because earlier women were supposed to take up the teaching job. So that was the mindset. So take up that. They go to the work demands are higher, and because you have to prove yourself, that pressure is always there at the back of the mind. I have to be better, or otherwise they will say they've got the job, but they're not doing. And then the same woman has to fulfill all the family responsibilities and finding time for self care and personal pursuits. But this is crucial, but many a times it is left. The societal expectations are such that a woman who is working in unorganized sector can dress up the way she wants, and believe me, there are women who have difficulty in managing to look very professional. That is also important. You have to be looking, you're working professionally, you're giving your optimum, and then you have to look professional. That also has a sort of pressure. I have seen people, I have seen girls having this issue also. Do I look professional enough? That also, because body image issue that has been so glorified in the media and in our mindsets, that also becomes an important factor. It's not sufficient that I'm working to my utmost capacity. So high workloads and job pressure, which is equal for men and women everywhere, the work pressure is there. They have, the only thing is woman has to prove herself, and she tries very hard to do that. The toxic work environments, the negative workplace culture such as bullying, harassment, and lack of support. Again, this is a subjective thing. It's not something measurable. So if I am told you're not properly dressed, be more professional. I mean, I know bosses who will just say, be more professional, and the woman loses it because she's trying her level best. What is the definition of professional here? And harassment that can take any emotional, physical harassment, then lack of control. So the woman came out of her house, took on so much just to be independent, have more autonomy. And here, when she comes to the workplace and she thinks she's qualified enough, qualified equivalent to her colleague, but she's not given autonomy. And that is what we have as glass ceiling effect. Women, as you go higher up, you don't have autonomy and decision making power because she is a woman. She is more emotional. They are more emotional. She can cry. She can do anything. So they are like subjected to that kind of stereotyping and looked down upon. The prejudices are there. So she encounters lack of control, and the work-life conflict is there because all the time she is managing two jobs, working this. So all this takes a toll on a woman's life. The stresses are equal, man and woman. Add to this the a pressure to prove herself all the time. So when I talk about gender discrimination and workplace inequality, the pay disparity, when I talk about it, 75% of the women they are mostly unpaid. When I talk about the unorganized sector and at the workplaces, they get for the same qualification, they get paid lower than their male counterparts. It's a fact. And I'm not saying this. ILO says this. International Labour Organization says this. So glass ceiling effect, we were talking about, the traditional field, you to schools and colleges, you find the managers and principals to be women because they are preparing students for technology. They are for the technological careers, the STEM careers. But when you go to the university level, suddenly you find a great drop in the number of women at the top positions. Why? Because as you grow up, participation is definitely increasing. But in India, still it is. When I was reading about the LinkedIn Opportunity Index from 2021, and I saw that it says in India the participation of women workforce is very low. It is 28% as compared to the other countries. And then again, you don't find many women. There are women who have crashed through the glass ceiling. Many more are coming up, but a lot more is needed. This equality is still a dream. And then we have harassment and bias. Harassment can be sexual. We always generalize as sexual harassment. Believe me, mental harassment, emotional harassment, that is much, much more prevalent. The microaggressions are much more prevalent. And a person who is trying to prove herself, a person who is already insecure, a simple thing as being told you are not professional preys upon their mind. So we were talking about the workplace harassment and discrimination, harassment and bullying that can cause anxiety, depression, and PTSD. You are singled out. You feel everybody's talking about you. The men can have the scenario is changing, but mota when we talk about it, you don't find gelling. That the boys club is there, the girls club is there. So yes, the differences are there. Then the gender bias, and it's not always that the colleagues mean to be mean, but still it takes unconsciously there can be bias because people, your bosses assume you cannot go and work in the field. Bosses assume that you cannot come in the night. Bosses assume that when I'm talking about 9 duty, I'm telling you, I'm an administrator. Still, if it has to be field work or the safety, then very often I'm told, send a male doctor to the place. And I know I'm monitoring the whole thing, but they just assume I will not be able to go to the boiler area or monitor in the field. So that is always there. Lack of recognition. Women's contributions are often undervalued, leading to the feelings of invisibility and lack of recognition. This is another big thing. And why does it happen? Initially, I said it is not only about the mindset of the society, it is about the mindset of women also. If they are acting like their male counterparts, while the men are known as assertive bosses, efficient bosses, strict bosses, the women, such women who are as assertive as their male counterparts, are taken to be aggressive. They are said they are difficult to work with. This is how they get labeled. These biases are there. And if they go as per their nature, if they are very caring, nurturing, then they are considered soft. So whatever they do, it's more like the situation between the devil and the deep sea, and they feel whatever I'm giving it, they are being recognized. But as compared to their input, the way they are going in, they do not feel recognized. This puts down their morale, and over long term, it leads to mental stress. Then the pay gap is there, it is a fact. And then the motherhood penalty. The motherhood penalty in terms of my own guilt. A woman, when because traditionally her mindset is also that she has to take care of the children. So she has the guilt when she's coming to the workplace that I'm leaving my children alone. And then she has to take a backseat in her career. Either she herself takes a career break, and that leads to salary gaps also. And moreover, uh, there are provisions of maternity leave, there are provisions for childcare leave in most of the corporate organizations, in government jobs also. But women who are working in the sector, they know how difficult it is to get all their leaves. It is their entitlement as per law, but very difficult to convince their bosses to take lump sum leaves. And if they do get their leaves, then they are penalized for this. Their promotions are dropped, and then the general label is they are not so committed, वो तो फैमिली की तरफ ही ध्यान दे रहे हैं, and you get labeled as such. So despite giving your everything to the career, I know my girls who work in my organization, they will say, ma'am, I work, and I know for sure they do, they work very hard, but because they were pregnant and they had to take the maternity leave, say for 6 months, and then they get dropped because they worked only half the year. They were not present. So the people who are dropping, they have their own justifications. But this leads to loss of morale and the lack of, motivation for them. Then the stigma of motherhood is there, unequal division of labor at home, the mindset of the society is not changing. Sometimes women become soft. So this also preys upon their mind. Then the family responsibility is not only for the children, but also for the elderly of the house. And if somebody falls sick, we see all around us, if somebody falls sick in the house, it is mostly the woman who takes leave. It's rarely that the men take leave, although the situation is changing. I'm very proud of the way the younger generation is being brought up. And so I would earnestly request all the working women to teach their sons to participate in the household work. It saddens me no end when I see a working woman mollycoddling their sons. I mean, you have faced this, but now at least teach your, because all these habits and mindsets, they form in the formative years. So if you have to teach your daughter to scale the heights, it is during adolescence. You have no boundaries, you have no limitations. And likewise, you have to teach your sons, the boys, and they're ready. It's just they were never told that this is expected of you the way girls are told all the time. This is societal expectation. So this is one thing which happens. Then the societal expectations and the pressure to do it all. And this is something, the superwoman myth. I have come out of the house, I can do it, and the girl knows it, breaking all the traditional limitations. And we know still the rural, my project is in the outskirts of a city. And so I know the girls, they are doing a great job, but they have to fight all the stereotypes. They have to convince their parents they are going to do. And so when they land up with a big job, they have this desire to prove their worth all the time. And then it becomes a habit. It gets ingrained into their personality. And then they want to do it all. The job, the responsibility, the community leader, and at the home also, they want to take up everything because it is expected of them. And a small statement coming from one of the family member or neighbor or colleague for a woman, because you are working, your child is neglected. It preys upon the mind of the woman. And to prove herself, she overexerts herself. And how long can the physical well-being compensate for this kind of mental attitude? It does. Then there are the gender stereotypes, what we were talking about earlier. And yes, with so much of media, the body image pressure. Earlier, it was the way you dress, the way you look, and then you have those pictures, the fancy pictures of working women. And I find young girls, I have seen in the metro station girls wearing their dupatta and chunni coming to the washrooms of the metro station, and then they get into their pants and shirts, their formal dress. So that is one thing. And to maintain their body image, to look like that, to be very professional, that also creates some pressure on their minds. Then the social media comparisons. You have to look a certain way to be a leader and work in a certain way. So as if that was not enough, you have to look a certain way. So all this leads to mental pressure and everything adds on. And then there is limited lack of adequate support in our society, limited access to childcare facilities, lack of flexi working options. This happened during the COVID times, but gradually people are coming up to again back to the office world. I would say for women, this flexi working option didn't work for many of women. It didn't work so well because the boundaries were broken and they felt more exhausted. And then there are insufficient paid leaves. So you don't want to take those leaves, and all this leads to pressure. And then we talk about the biological and life cycle factors. I said there are biological differences between the sex. So women, they have these estrogens and progesterones, the female hormones, and they are linked to serotonin. They have an impact on the serotonin and dopamine, which are the happiness hormones, the well-being hormones. So all these have an impact. So this is a girl who is having practically on an average, the menarche occurs around 13, 14 years, and her menopause will happen around 45, 46. So a good 30 to 32 years, she is going to have periods every month, and then period related menstrual problems are there. So that's not, if imagine a person having stomach ache all the time, and then they have to work, and if they are in a physical labor oriented, so just because she's a woman, she is having periods, and that is what I meant by saying gender sensitive. She doesn't want to leave. She wants to do the same kind of work that a man is doing. But if a man were to have stomach ache or lose motions, would you not give him a concession? You would. But the woman, because of the societal stigma, cannot speak aloud that I'm having periods and I'm having dysmenorrhea. Dysmenorrhea is period pain. So she is not ready to speak out. But if a man were to have loose motions and stomach ache, would say, take rest, take rest for fever also. So that gender sensitive, some place to take care of that has to be there. Then right now we find dysmenorrhea, infertility, pregnancy, 9 months of pregnancy, and then breastfeeding. Then again she needs help. Menopause. Menopause is the time when the hormones are again playing up. And then these are the women who are prone to have more depressive episodes, anxiety episodes, and the borderline personality disorders, they also get flared up. And then chronic diseases. If she were to have diabetes, hypertension, along with the reproductive hormones interplay, this is going to affect her mental status. The premenstrual dysphoric disorder, which is also known as premenstrual syndrome. And what is this? Headaches, migraines, stomach ache just before her periods. And this leads to a little dysthymia, which is a small amount of mild case of depression. These hormonal changes, this will lead to mood swings. And this is a definite entity, and it is getting flared up if the personality type is nervous, if the workload is more. So what is it? What happens? All these hormones are affecting the dopamine and serotonin. And then she is stressed out because she is having periods. She cannot speak out that I'm having periods and so I'm having all this. And if she were to speak out, she would be looked down upon. So she doesn't want to disclose. So this is a vicious cycle. Then PCOD cases, they have dysmenorrhea, they have body issues, and then infertility may happen. And a definite entity is postpartum depression. Earlier, we used to see fewer cases, of course. A little amount of postpartum depression was common earlier also, which we would call baby blues. But right now, I find, especially in the working women, depression to the extent that it turns into postpartum psychosis. And probably she is feeling the ill effects of, her, she has delivered, she will be at rest, she will be losing up on her career, she will be branded as a person who is not participating, might be losing on a promotion. And that is preying upon her mind, apart from the usual postpartum hormonal milieu leading to depression. So all this is cumulative and leads to psychosis. Then, borderline personality disorder. This is found to be more common. Eating disorders, along with eating disorders, this is found to be more common in women. What does it mean? The woman has, sometimes she's fine, sometimes she's not. More common in women. But the root cause has been found to be, usually it is a sort of chronic post-traumatic stress disorder. A woman who has had mishappenings, and I'm not talking about sexual molestation. It is about, seeing maybe some domestic violence in the house, maybe ill-treated by father, mother, somebody, or maybe witnessing some amount of trauma, and this preys upon the mind. So sometimes you find them to be very happy-go-lucky sorts, and sometimes they are found to be aggressive. So this is called borderline personality disorder. At the moment, I find it very abhorrent, because when you say BPD disorder, then it is equal to some illness, which it is not. The poor girl was subjected to all these kinds of trauma, and then she carries this burden with her, and that interferes with her personality, and she may have manifestations. It should be relabeled as chronic stress or something like that. Then domestic violence. We all know about domestic violence. Domestic violence, it can be physical, it can be emotional, mental, or it can be economic violence, not necessarily by the spouse or the living partner. It can be any family member, may or may not be under the living in the same roof, that is by definition, but also, so that is something. If the woman is undergoing domestic violence at home, will she be able to concentrate? She was already grappling with the workplace stress, with the inequality, with her guilt of leaving the home, and then she is subjected to abuse at home. And yes, I would say again, women at top leadership positions are or have also been found to be abused emotionally. Physical violence gets, reduces, but emotional violence, that continues. And sometimes this domestic violence spills over into the workplace also. An abusive spouse keeps calling partner, keeps calling up in the workplace, comes. I have known a very renowned doctor in my fraternity, and his wife is equally big and a professor at that, and getting abusive in front of her students, in front of her juniors, verbal abuse, and lifting a hand to slap, it is even worse. Even if you don't hit, you don't cause physical wound, but lifting a hand is good enough. So that kind of trauma is always there. So this domestic violence, and we know in our setup, mostly it is the men who are the perpetrators and woman is the victim. The scenario may be different, but this does happen most of the time. And what better way to insult a woman or traumatize a woman than to, we know of the recent case. Just because to teach a lesson to a woman, the best thing is sexual harassment or physical violence. So all this preys upon them. And then because of the attached stigma, somebody else is exploiting, somebody else is molesting. But if a woman goes to seek help, she is being talked about. If we have a mental health disorder, just now we spoke about bipolar personality disorder. So now that once you label it a disorder, and they will say she's having mental health issues. It's not that she's having, if someone were to have stomach ache, you would say stomach ache, you have sympathy. But the moment you speak of mental health disorder, then you are almost ostracized. People they start imagining the worst kind of scenario. So there is reluctance to seek help, and which is the biggest flaw in our system. And then there are people who are ready to seek help. They are intelligent enough to understand that they will go spiraling down and help is okay, but they fear that their bosses, their employers may be prejudiced, and this will have an impact on their careers. Then there is lack of access to good resources. So the quacks abound, their so-called counselors abound, but professional, qualified counselors are not available. And you need medical support followed by psychological counseling. And then most of the time, you do. I was talking about PMDD, premenstrual dysphoric disorder, and this premenstrual dysphoric disorder, which is happening in a girl, premenstrual syndrome, 17 to 18-year-old. This girl, when she reaches her menopause, with all other factors remaining constant, she's likely to go into depression. So she needs protective care, she needs medication, followed by along with not only followed by along with psychological support. But where are the expert counselors? And organizations should ensure proper facilities for counseling. So what does a being a working woman mean in India? Discrimination and bias in the workplace, maternal and childcare responsibilities are there, prenatal, postnatal, child development, everything she's there. And then she has lack of support systems, nobody to understand and her hormonal and reproductive health issues, support for her mental health issues, and she doesn't get reliable childcare services. How many workplaces have crashed in their system? She has come out for economic independence, but at the same time, I know people whose partners they stop supporting. You are working, so now you support yourself. And then they have to maintain a certain so-called status in the society. So जितना कमा रहे हैं चादर तो छोटी रह गई पैर बड़े होते चले गए so अपनी चादर ही छोटी होती जा रही है so this again leads to a mental pressure and then unpaid leaves are there so all these pressures add up and then she faces discrimination and bias in the workplace in the form of unequal pay and opportunity, gender stereotyping, microaggressions. Subtle sexist remarks or actions can create a hostile work environment despite posh laws in place. Every organization of repute has posh laws, internal complaints committee. How often they are utilized judiciously? How often a woman is ready to approach them? And then we talked about the mental health stigma and cultural barriers which do not allow her to take help from the resources. And all this leads to decreased productivity and performance. That is goes back again because she's a woman, she used to perform well, now she's not performing well. And we tend to forget, the employers tend to forget what was happening to her, how supportive the workplace was, and she undergoes emotional exhaustion, leading to physical health consequences, strained relationships, and finally the burnout. She's drained, unable to meet her constant demands, and is totally exhausted. So, what do the employers need to be sensitive about? The warning signs of poor mental health, which are emotionally unstable and easily upset, suspicious and insecure, self-critical. Self-criticism is something women are adept at. They always do this. Lack of self-confidence, lack of adjustment, talking of death, suicide, reading negative books, moribund thoughts, and then the physical ailments. I have already spoken about that. Then the behavioral signs, sudden change in mood, sadness, unhappy temper tantrums, and then people wonder what it is all about. Excessive fear and worry, illogical reasoning, paranoid thinking, all this happens. And then most important is early recognition and taking on these problems. So, is that okay? Are you with me now?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't even know how many people are there. So, should I continue? That was about the factors in nutshell. And then, should I proceed further for strategies for addressing mental health challenges? How much time do I have? Do tell.
We still have 10-15 minutes, 10 minutes more.
Okay. So I'll try to wind up. And yes, I think, Usha, we can have, and I can learn from you. I can see your perspective also. So let us be there. So, what are the strategies for addressing mental health challenges? So, I would like to go a little fast. The organization should support with flexi arrangements, work arrangements, which should be tailored. It should be not one size fits all. There were women who wanted to go back to their office. Equal opportunity policies and availability of mental trained professional mental health resources for their women folk, for everybody. But for women, we have to be gender sensitive. And mindfulness and stress management. Do our workplaces have a place where women can relax? Do we even have ergonomics breaks? We work at our computers all the time. So my mental health taking toll, my muscles are all in a spasm, and then I do not have an ergonomic brain and everything. If my back is aching, I am distressed, and if I am distressed, my back starts aching all the more. So this is a vicious cycle. So mindfulness and stress management, flexi work arrangement, inclusive work culture. So this has to be, and this is not possible if while making the number one, we are talking about making mental health policy. So for so many donkey years, we have been talking about the annual health checkup, but it is all about physical health checkup because mental health is not measurable. So we were not talking about it. Now we are talking about having a mental health policy in the workplaces. And how can you even think of making a mental health policy without talking to the one of the specific the we talk about diversity inclusion all the time, but do we really consider women as a diverse? We employ women, but do we ever talk about their specific needs? So we need to involve women, even if they are not in the leadership positions, for their inputs in this mental health policy. Identify their specific needs, gender specific issues, which reproductive, as I just spoke of, biological factors have to be taken into account. A woman who is undergoing infertility treatment, she has to get her follicle monitoring done and everything. She has to take leaves often, compensate it later on. But she needs to feel free to speak to her bosses about this. Then stress management programs, support for work-life balance, and concrete measures. Posh laws are there, posters are there, ICCs are there, but are we really protecting them against the sexist remarks? Are we really protecting them? I am one of the women HODs sitting amongst 40 men, and I know the day I have my aggressive episode, a temper tantrum, it's such a simple thing. For men, it's easy. बीवी से झगड़ा हुआ होगा. But for women, what do they say? Menopause होगा. So, I mean, this menopause, which is a fact of life for me, it is almost a sexist remark. And I tend to counter it. So, I go dressed up in my sari and I'm bada sa bindi just to say, yes, I'm a woman and I'm here with you and I can work better than you. But that is the approach. How many women can stand up to this kind of pressure? You try to justify by not being, trying to please others, trying to hold your things. So all this has to be understood, and that is only possible when we have women at the top and they think about them. And this is what I call the sisterhood. They should think about this and contribute to policy making. This is not the time to sit back. Contribute to policy making and having these things, creating community support, and most important part is self-care. Self-care has to be prioritized. It was your decision to take yourself out of the house and prove yourself. But you cannot do everything. You have to take care of yourself. You cannot change the mindset of the society till you change your own mindset. You have to push your way through. And how will you push your way through if you are not physically fit? Leave alone mentally fit. For that, you have to have a healthy lifestyle. I'll be talking about that. Time management, and you have to set your boundaries. Learn to say no. You cannot take on everything because actually 80% of the employees in any organization and 80% will be doing their work and 20% they carry all the burden. And there is no, brownie points for becoming Atlas. No brownie points. You just burn yourself out. So learn to say no because people are looking for scapegoats. Ki kaam karwana hai. And mindfulness and stress management techniques, and most importantly, professional help when you need it. So how do you go for a healthy lifestyle? There are basically so many pictures I've put here for you, but I would say there are just three pillars. Number one is diet, the food, healthy diet, And healthy means don't follow the food fads. Go judiciously. I have a certain body type, and again, weight loss, body image, please don't. You talk to the best of the nutritionists, and it is not about the what kind of food. People spoil their knees walking out all the time, not eating, and all those quick fixes are actually quick fixes, and they rebound very badly. So please don't go for take a healthy diet, and all these healthy habits have to be installed as early as possible. Exercise at least 150 minutes a week, that is 30 minutes every day. But I would say three types of exercises are must pertaining to different age groups. So one is walking, the aerobics, and the cardio exercises. You have to work at your muscles also, especially when we are sitting in front of the computer all the time. So I have to take care of my muscles, the stretching, the yoga. And when we talk about the 40 plus, 45 plus women, muscle is very, very, very important. People talk about calcium and vitamin D3 all the time, about the bone health, but it is about muscles. So unless and until you are fit, you are going to have this preying on your mind. And then stress management, that is breathing exercises and pranayam, which are going to calm you down. The sleep is essential. The joy of giving, I would say, faith and spirituality is very important. And most of the workers nowadays are in social isolation. We have so much of social media. We are typing all the time. Again, this leads to another kind of issues in our fingers and hands, apart from the elbow thing. So sleeplessness, everything is there. So, but we are alone. And if you are sitting amidst 10 colleagues, but you have no one to share your thoughts with, you cannot share your problems with, you cannot take advice from them, you are practically in a silo. We are all working in silos. That has to be broken. And only group activities. I'm spending most of the time traveling. I'm not talking about myself right now. Person in this millennium traveling most of the time alone with the earphones on. Then you're working, doing your work, but you're not interacting, you're not involved with your colleagues. So that also, because that diffuses, what earlier women used to fight. And that was taken as a normal. In big joint families, 10 to 12 ladies, they were cooking together, feeding children together, fighting together, not talking to each other for 2 days, and then they would mix up. So that was a sort of stress buster. So any connection is better than no connection, I would say, because no connection preys a lot more on your mind than adverse connection. So meditation, spending time in nature, doing social activity, think positive, easier said than done, very difficult to stay positive all the time. So you have to reinforce with each other. And for that, having a buddy is a great idea, even if the person is not working in your same place. So a buddy who reminds you doing together for a healthy diet का क्या है, exercise का क्या है, and writing a good journal. The three, thanking God for something. I have done it myself, the gratitude thing, and it helps me keep sane. So if you can do, and best thing is to have a buddy in all this, and this will help you like anything. And this is the thing I hear very often. One day, there is a girl who is working in HR department, and I have seen her face shrinking in front of me. And then I say, what is happening to you? Come. Madam, time nahi milta hai. Then he said, come. No, first I'll finish this. And the day never comes. So if you are having stomach ache, if you are having loose motions today, would you take medicines today or day after tomorrow? You would take it today. So you are bogged down with stress today. You are letting it multiply exponentially, and this time is never going to come back. So today, if I am stressed, if I am not able to manage my time, this is the time to take a pause and rethink what is happening, take an overview, draw on my priority list, the Eisenhower, whatever the HR people say, Eisenhower square, analyzing what is important, what is less important, do whatever. Take a pause and rethink what is happening. If you do not do it today, you will land up with physical ailments. Because when we are treating cancers, even we talk about calming techniques. This I'll not go into negative methods of coping and positive methods of coping. So reframing, time management, nature, yoga, meditation, indulging in an hobby. This is again, एक दिन मैं बुक पढ़ूंगी, एक दिन मैं sabbatical लूंगी तब बुक पढ़ूंगी. Oh my God. So the time you spend on your mobile, on WhatsApp, where you find, again you have comparisons. Narcissism is also there. So better, whatever my hobby is, indulge daily, maybe 5 minutes. And the best piece of advice I got when I was not walking and I was having all these issues was I was told by a well-wisher, even if you walk for, and that is my husband, he told me. So I was saying well-wisher, but actually that is what my husband told me. Because he's working in another place, he doesn't live with me. So he said, see, you will keep procrastinating every day. So even for 5 minutes, you just wear your shoes and go out for 5 minutes. And those 5 minutes usually get converted into 15 minutes. And that is the way I end up walking every day. So if I think of 1 hour, I will never do it. So even for 5 minutes, if you can read 4 pages, you can read 5 lines, that's good enough. So most important is identifying and seeking help early. And I'm talking about my stress here, screen time. It is taking a very big. It has eased our lives, but it has also complicated it. I look at the status, which I don't. I find women, this lady comes to me with the perimenopausal thing, menopause, because all her blood reports are normal and she's not able to sleep. And she's coming and I'm telling her about this breathing, calming, everything I'm telling her, giving her hormones. And then one day she comes with her daughter and the daughter says, Mummy na 1 baje tak to WhatsApp dekhti hai. And then if you are seeing WhatsApp till 1, and you are looking at people all well dressed up and you are feeling that complex कि मैं तो घर बैठी हुई हूँ, I don't have this color sari, and she could not sleep because of that. And I was giving her menopausal therapy. So I mean, this is something, because you go to whatever place, it is always said that the screen has to be shut off at least half an hour before. So this is something. So please try to put off the notifications, use it judiciously the way you would want. For this, I can say just one thing. For every woman, try to use the social media the way you would want your child to. We don't like our children, khel rahe ho, Insta. Why are you wasting time? Why am I doing it? So use your social media the way you want your children to do. Eat the food that you want your children to eat and exercise the same way. So, and that is why the very fact that we are having sleep clinics and mobile de-addiction centers, I have been to one of those when I did my diploma in mental health. And AIMS Delhi, they have this mobile de-addiction center, and lots of sleep clinics have sprung up. And it is all part of it is linked to our screen time and unhealthy habits and so many other things. But most important is let go of the things that you have no control over and focus on the things that you can do. I have found through a friend of mine 4 very important words. How does it matter? So if you are stressed about anything, just take a step back, pause, take a step back and think, how does it matter if I don't do this? What will happen? So stop. So you're rushing to the office, and ideally you should do your time management well. You should start well in time. But if at all you're getting late, please stop. You don't deserve to have an accident just because you're rushing too fast. No, how does it matter? But next time, have your learnings from everything, and next time try to mend it. Okay, so a little bit of time management, take things lightly. The world is not going to fall down. It was happening earlier, things were getting done earlier, will get done today also and tomorrow also. Nobody is going to do. And have this sense of giving gives you joy, then you should develop your own support systems in the family, in the peer, and campaigns. And most importantly, I find that as a very welcome change where the celebrities are speaking up about their own trials and tribulations. Is that my voice which is breaking up? No.
No,
So,
Pratham, sorry, ma'am. Pratham, just keep your camera, mic off, please. Yeah, yes, ma'am. Please continue.
remember, you are not alone in this journey. Usha is there. I am there. We are all part of the same system. So many, you are not alone. The celebs are speaking up. We need to have more such conversations. I would have loved to have more of people here. We would have interacted, and we have to have these conversations all the time. Only then we can bring about a substantial and a positive change. Otherwise, there is no point in lamenting that we don't have good policies. We have to create apna asma khud banana. But first, I need to realize what I am undergoing. And this is all about mindfulness. We keep talking. And when I was in this leadership program a few days back, and the celebrated designer Ritu Beri, she spoke a wonderful thing. I was expecting a woman all decked up and everything. No, and the best piece of advice that she could give to all of us was be yourself, be mindful of how you dress up. That is important. So mindful of हम खाने पीने के साथ dressing up maybe. And what does it mean? Just identify your own self. What is my most comfortable skin? And stay in that. And because if you don someone else's persona, try to be someone else, emulating and trying to be someone else are different things. So you try to put on someone else's persona. So internal struggle is always there. And that internal struggle will break you. So that is something great. So be mindful, identify your stressors, identify what works for you, and try to be true to yourself. And this is what Usha said at the very beginning. So we have to remember that women's mental health is not just women's business, but everyone's business with more and more women participation, and I was reading about an IMF report, International Monetary Fund's report somewhere. So if women participation were to increase, our GDP would, jump like anything. So our women are coming out, but are we creating safe spaces for them? Are we creating mentally healthy workspaces for them? We are not. They're coming out just to prove themselves. और वो आदत बन जाती है and then it goes on, and that is linked to the it's very unfortunate. Every second day you read about a very bright professional suicide, and it is a myth कि weak people do this. Suicide, definitely depression is the risk factor for suicide, but they don't want to commit suicide. There is always an incidence of a call for help before a person commits suicide. It's just that we are living in isolation and nobody recognizes that call. Nobody says, I understand you. I am also undergoing this. I am with you. If only one person would recognize that call and say, I am with you, these things would not. So these women, when I talk about working women, they have this dual role. They are coming out to prove themselves. Every single day they are proving themselves, and then it becomes a personality thing. But if we were to create good work spaces for them, more women would come up, reach the top leadership, make better policies, and our GDP would rise also. And that would be a win-win situation for our country as well. Employers, more productivity, more loyalty, nothing works like. And to women folk, I will just say it's a big, big world with a lot of support out there. Ask for help, accept help, and thank you, Usha. Thank you, Lakshmi. We need to have more conversations, and that is the only way we can move forward, helping each other.
Thank you, ma'am. It is a wonderful session, actually. So I was just writing few questions, and you are just keeping on giving me those answers, actually. Yeah. So on the behalf of the organizing committee, I would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to our outstanding speaker, Dr. Manisha Pandey. Today, we had the privilege of engaging in a fascinating and thought-provoking discussion on factors affecting mental health in working women. The expertise and the passion displayed by you, ma'am, truly enriched our experience. And you have shared your knowledge, leaving us with valuable insights and motivational ideas. Your engagement and The engaged presentation captured our attention and inspired us to explore more further. We sincerely appreciate the effort you invested in preparing the enlightening session. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. And